Hi, my name is Kristi Telschow, and I'm CEO and founder of Jersey Staffing Solutions. I'm here today to give you some helpful resume writing tips. Now, everyone has a different interpretation of what is a good resume. I'm going to give you some of the basics that every resume should incorporate. Of course, you're going to want to customize based on your own personal needs and the position you're applying for. First off, if you're a recent graduate, you always want to have an objective. An objective is going to be a clear line stating what type of job you're looking for. Whereas if you're someone who's gained work experience, you're going to want a professional summary. A professional summary is different from an objective because it's usually incorporating 3 to 4 sentences of what you bring to the table for the role that you're applying for. Where again, as a recent graduate's objective is letting them know what kind of role they're looking for. The difference between the two is a recent graduate often doesn't have the experience that's applicable and is looking to gain that. And a professional summary is essentially the Tylenol that you're bringing to the pain of the client's hiring need. Every position that you want to apply for should be tailored. You want to have a resume that is suitable for each particular position. So that may mean that you have 4 or 5 separate resumes. When writing your resume, one of my biggest pet peeves is when people are talking about past positions in present tense. If the position is something that was done 2 years ago, a year ago, not something that you're currently doing, it should be talked in past tense. One of the things when you're writing a resume is you have maybe 15 seconds, if even, to grab the attention of the person reading your resume. If you're writing your resume in a paragraph format, it's very hard for that recruiter to skim through and get a highlight of what it is that you offer. Bullet points present a much easier way for people to view what you bring to the table. And remember, when writing your resume is a clear representation of your writing skills and what they can expect of your work on the job. Therefore, correct font must be utilized in formatting throughout your resume. You want to make sure that all of your years line up, that the same font you're using in one section aligns with other sections and size. When you're talking about what you've done, you want to make sure that you talk about accomplishments that you achieved in that role. See if you can quantify that or even qualify it within the type of answer that you're giving. So for example, instead of saying, I reduced turnover for the company, how about saying, I reduced turnover for the company by 33% over the year before. So now you're giving an actual number to the value that you brought back to that company. If you have special skills, you want to make sure you mention that. And what I mean by that are technical skills. Oftentimes, recruiters are using keywords or Boolean search strings to look for your resume. And say they're looking for someone with ADP Workforce Now. If that acronym is not on your resume, you will not pull up in their search. So you want to make sure that you're highlighting all of those special software skills, technical skills, anything that could be relevant to the type of job that you're applying for. Most important, spell check that document. Make sure that you read through, and again, reiterating the tenses, but also that everything is properly spelled. And always proof your resume before submitting to a client. When you're submitting it to that company, make sure you save the document titled as your name in both Word and PDF formats. You don't want to be sending it over within your own tone. For example, you don't want to say Mom's Resume 2010. So now let's take a look at 2 types of resume. The first resume I'm going to show you is of a recent graduate, of what you don't want it to look like versus what you do want it to look like. And then we'll look at someone with a bit more experience. For a recent graduate, let's take a look at this resume. And let's see if you can highlight what doesn't belong or what should be done differently. So based on what we just talked about in the previous basic resume basics, you're going to see that, first of all, I can tell right off the bat the format is not correct. The top position for salon and spa says October 2018 to present, where all of the other years are actually by the month. We want to make sure we're consistent by either using the number or the actual date spelled out. Additionally, the objective is talking in first person in one sentence, not clearly stating the type of role this person's looking for. Not to mention the email isn't the most professional email at hotchick04@gmail.com. An email should always be professional and with your name. Now, since I don't really know what this person's applying for, I'm trying to figure out, okay, this person's had some experience as a branch administrator at a staffing firm, okay, but they also were in cosmetics, they worked at a salon, they were a waitress. What exactly is this person trying to do? And additionally, when I look at their resume, I'm seeing past jobs in present tense. Now, remember, I told you that this is a giant pet peeve of mine. When we look at the bottom, it's not necessary to have your references listed at the bottom and their phone numbers. This information is left for your application. Additionally, since this person did graduate from college, there's no need to mention where they went to high school unless they had some relevant accomplishments or awards that they achieved at that high school. So, if we look at this, there really isn't any expansion on some of her experience. And again, we're not seeing proper formatting. Now let's take a look at the resume and how it could be better drafted. So if we look at this resume, well, wow, okay, so now I know where this person lives. Looks like that's a much better email of jane.smith@gmail.com. And wow, our objective went from one sentence to 3 sentences and not in first person. A self-motivated and detail-driven student seeking a position within the HR field. Well, I never would have known that had I looked at the other resume. But I can see how she has the customer experience from her past positions. Looks like she brought her education up to the top, so I can focus on up. She's a recent graduate, so this explains why she's trying to get into HR. And I like the fact that she has a hospitality and tourism degree. And looks like she brought her internship experience up and even separated that out from her prior work experience through high school. So now I can see how her most relevant experience and the most recent experience is relevant to the type of career she's trying to pursue. Looks like she also expanded on the type of work that she did, making it more qualifiable. In addition, she's got her tenses correct. Looks like on the bottom, she even added particular skills that she has with various softwares, as well as affiliations that she's been working in that are relevant for me to know that this is a well-rounded candidate for consideration. All around, a much better improvement. And actually, now that I look at it, she also removed her childcare experience at the bottom because that was earlier on in her career and not really as relevant to the HR role that she's pursuing. Great job on your revision, Jane. Now let's look at a resume with a little bit more experience. We've got Lynn Parker. Looks like Lynn is an HR manager, but again, I'm not quite sure what she's bringing to the table or what she wants to do, as there's no professional summary. In addition, I don't see anything about what she brings in terms of her skills or her relevance. It just goes right into her job. And 3 pages, it's a lot. Typically, I say for a recent graduate, you want to keep it to 1 page. If you have more than experience versus a recent graduate, I usually say 2 pages is very decent. If you're going to have 2 pages, though, use the full landscape and make the most of the paper that you have. Typically, if you're in IT or more of those technical positions, it will most likely be more than 3 pages. But for Lynn, we need to find a way to get this down to 2 pages. So let's take a quick glance here. If we look at her resume, what's interesting is Operations Manager, VP, where she was with ABC Group, she actually did a beautiful introduction and summary of her experience. But when we look at her current position, which is confidential, she basically just looks like she took a copy and paste of her job description and plumped it into her resume versus mirroring the type of formatting that she had previously and what she brought to the table. In addition, if she's telling me she has her SHRM CP, I want to actually see that on her resume, where here she's got everything down in her education, where she's talking about her human resource certificate, and she's really bearing any software proficiency down at the bottom. I'm also curious as to why it's relevant to have a bank on here when it's not speaking to her HR experience, and to be honest, is over 20 years ago. So how can we look to improve this resume? Well, let's see what we can shrink down. So look, if we shrink it down to 2 pages, we've now put in a summary stating the type of role she's looking for and that she's a SHRM certified human resource manager with progressive experience managing employee benefits and compliance, employee hiring and onboarding, drafting policies, performance management processes, payroll and HR record. And it continues to go on to why she's relevant and you would want to hire her. What's great here is she even broke out her HR skills. Remember we talked about those key words. So she made sure to highlight in bullet format all of the high-level skills that she brings to the table, including any technical skills she has with applicant tracking systems, payroll solutions, and accounting software if that were to be used as a key search term. Because we have HR skills underlined, we want to make sure we do the same thing when we break out our professional experience and our education and volunteerism. Well, how did we get it from 3 pages to 2 pages? Well, it looks like we removed her prior experience from over 20 years ago with a bank that wasn't relevant. The first rule of thumb is your resume should really only include the last 10 years of relevant experience to your resume. Well, that's what we've done here, and we've gone ahead and consolidated her confidential experience to summarize everything that she had pulled from her previous role. Everything is in present tense as she is currently in this role, and it is okay to say confidential. When we look at operations manager, we do notice that everything is still in past tense. And we still have her education on the bottom, yet we highlighted and brought up her certification at the top. So in short, these are some key tools that will help you to improve your resume and really make it a winner. And what happens when you have a great resume? Well, if we think like a winner and have a great resume, we'll land those interviews, which will ultimately lead to your new job. I hope you take these tips and find them helpful as you land the next position in your career. Thank you for your time, and please visit Jersey Staffing's website and feel free to follow us on all of our social media accounts at Jersey Staffing. Thank you.